Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV, another quick game of Interplanetary I Spy for all you space detectives out there. And basically what we have here today is a really nice GIGAPAN to look at, and there's tons and tons of things in here, many of which I've covered before. And I do recommend that you check out this video that I did a while back. It's called Mars Skeleton, Strange Remains Found. I did that a couple of months ago, and we got this weird skeleton thing and loads of other crazy things in here. I'll show you some little clips of those in a sec anyway. But the main thing is this GIGAPAN. Now, these are, as I've said many times before, probably 100 times, these are burial structures or burial mounds or crypts or whatever you want to call them. And they're heavily eroded and broken down, and probably were once much taller. And these probably contain multiple burials. And today I'm going to show you one which is really clear, and right in the entrance here. So you zoom in right here on the top right, and we have an entrance to this butte or burial structure, and let's have a look straight away. There's no footprints here. I have shown this before, but I was actually sent in this clip here by somebody, but I'm afraid I've lost the details of that person because I had an update from Microsoft, and I've lost some folders. They've gone missing. So if you're the person that sent this clip in to me, then please let me know in the comments below, and I'll add your name to the credits, okay? Here it is. So you zoom right in. We've got the entrance here, which goes right back into this structure. And just here, sitting on the sand, right by the entrance, is a large head of a person. Now, it doesn't look that clear until you add some brightness to the image, okay? So what I've done here, I've done that for you already to save you having to do it. And here's the image. So we've got the raw clip here, as I've just showed you. Sol 855. So this set of images goes right back years and years ago, taken by the Rover. But this particular GIGAPAN is extremely good quality and very clear. So you don't have to do a lot to the image to actually see it clearly. This is either a statue head or it's an actual burial. Unfortunately, there's not quite enough detail in here to say either way. But I'm leaning on this being a burial mainly because of the details. If I zoom in here and look at the enhanced clip, if you look closely, if you'll let me zoom in, there we are. If you look closely here, there are teeth, very irregular teeth, like many of the other Martians I've shown. You've got very irregular teeth here. Large, irregular, broken up teeth, right? These are details I don't think you would get in a statue necessarily. And there's teeth here on the side, on the jaw sticking up, just there. There seems to be another one there. It's all kind of broken up, and like many of the Martian specimens I've shown before, they have very poor dental work, if they ever had any dental work. Dentists do not seem to have been a priority. But of course, this thing could have been there for thousands or even a million years, for all we know. So it's hard to say, but basically there's not quite enough detail to tell whether this is carved or an actual mummified, preserved head. I'm leaning on the latter because we have what looks like mummified eye detail here, shriveled and distorted and contorted here. You've even got inner eye detail there as well. Okay, but it's very distorted, and it seems shriveled up. The lip is kind of sticking up like that, and we've got these teeth here. There's a row of teeth at the top. There's very vague teeth detail there below it. In fact, what I'll do, I'll brighten this up a bit more. Let's see if we can pick out the teeth a bit more. I've already brightened it, but I'll do it a bit more anyway. There we are. So now you can see those teeth, right? There's one here, and there's a row of them at the top, and some quite vague, kind of dark ones below. So there we are. It's not a very pretty looking one, this one, as many of them are on Mars. We don't know how long this has been here. I would suggest it's probably been there at least 1,000 years, probably many thousands of years, possibly hundreds of thousands of years. We don't know. There's lots of strange things in this GIGAPAN, and as I've said, I've shown them before, but most of them are down in the foreground, down here at the bottom, and there's loads and loads of fragments. Now, a lot of these fragments would have been up on this structure, and have obviously fallen down and rolled down this slope here, and have ended up down here. And that skeleton thing is just there. That's one I published a couple of months ago, which is really clear. This is only 3 or 4 inches wide. It's not that big. Very interesting. So check that video out. I will show some little clips of that in a minute, because there's some other very strange things on the ground here. But there are lots of things up here that look like they could be statues, like this thing. But they're so heavily eroded with wind erosion. These lateral lines going across here is wind erosion. They're so heavily eroded that they're very hard to actually make out. But this one here looks a bit like a statue, and you've got some facial details here, like an eye and a nose. But it's so heavily eroded, it's almost impossible to actually verify. But I'm pretty sure that a lot of these up here were probably statues. It's unfortunate, because I'm sure there would have been rows and rows of statues along here, this structure. And these butte structures, a lot of them were kind of ziggurat shaped. They're basically, they would have had a flat, long sort of barrow-shaped top and steps coming down, and were built almost like a long pyramid rather than a square pyramid. If you imagine a rectangular pyramid, like a ziggurat, they were similar to that. And usually at one end of the structure, you would have an entrance just like this, and that would lead into lots of chambers inside, which would all have burials and statue figurines, statuettes, and other burial items with them, as I've shown before. So there was that. But I was looking at that, and then I looked up here, and there's a statue up here, just here. This isn't very clear. It won't let me zoom in any further. But we have a very flat-faced rock here on the top with a statue here. And you can just about make out a nose and a mouth and a chin. There's the chin. And he's wearing a hat, or got a pointed head. And it comes around like that. And it's got a shadow there. It's not very clear because it's in shadow. So, as with many of these things, you have to brighten them up to see them. So I'm going to show you that now, and we'll actually see what this thing looks like. It's not in great detail because it's a bit of a distance away, but if you brighten this up enough, like I've done here, you will see it. And there it is. Here's the rule clip on the left. As I've said probably 100 times before, on top of these structures, much like some of the religious buildings we have today on Earth, like churches and such like, you have gargoyles along the top, along the ramparts, or along the top parts of the structure, looking down, protecting the church from evil spirits. And gargoyles are basically based on ancient demigods like Bez from ancient Egypt and ancient Babylonia. Bez was like a short little dwarven demigod who had a kind of bear-like face, was fairly ugly looking, like a little troll. And the ancient Egyptians used to have little figurines of him and put them outside their house to protect them from evil spirits. And this tradition then developed over many hundreds and thousands of years, and then this is why we have gargoyles on our churches and religious buildings and such like. They're there to protect you from evil. And this looks like a gargoyle when you zoom in. Pointed head, forehead coming to there. There's the eye. It's a bit vague, this, I appreciate that. A short stubby nose, like many of these things seem to have. Quite a large chin coming round. There's a mouth with a little bit of teeth detail there. You can just about make out a tooth there. There's not a lot to see there, unfortunately. There's the eye. The pointed head comes up like that. There's some kind of structure to this hat or helmet, whatever it is, and then it comes down like that. And we seem to have some sort of ear just there. Now, is this thing wearing what seems to be a pointed hat or a helmet? It kind of looks a bit like a helmet coming down to here, like this. But I could be wrong. It's a bit hard to interpret when you don't have enough detail. Let me change the contrast a bit more on this, because I could have gone a bit darker, I think, and shown you it a bit more boldly. There. I don't know if that helps. Go brighter again. There we are. It's starting to break up now. These things will break up if you push them too hard. But you can see that nose, you can see the mouth, you can see the eye, and the pointed head fairly clearly once you brighten it up. But it's not easy when you have something in shadow like this. It's not easy to show it. You've got to be careful how you add the contrast and just take your time with it. So there we are, 2 things to show today. That was about it really. I'll show you some clips of that other video. There's some really weird stuff in that. But there we are. Is this a carving? Could be. Or is it an actual mummified person that was buried in this burial structure? And we're just seeing the head that's left there. As we often do, we often only see the heads. I think the bodies were separated, and the bones and remains of the body were probably put in a different chamber, but the heads were stood or sat facing outwards. As I've shown in some other videos recently, there are many of these things on Mars, and lots of very similar things where we just have a head on its own. I really do think that the bodies were separated and bones were put in a different small chamber separate from the head, and the head was put in front. So this at the back here may actually be a chamber with the rest of the bones in it, like you would get in a crypt. So it looks like this structure goes right back, and it's possible that there are other chambers in here behind this thing, in this dark area, going right back into this butte structure, or burial structure, or crypt, or whatever you want to call it. This thing, I would imagine, would have dozens and dozens of burials in it, possibly 50 or 100, and probably go right back into this area here, below this. And this would have, at one point, probably been a lot straighter and more symmetrical looking, whereas it's all kind of collapsed down. But often on Earth, if you go to places like Valley of the Kings in Egypt, you see structures like this all over the place, and they have lots of caves and burials in them, and they're just carved out of natural rock, and don't look like buildings at all. They actually just look like mountainous areas, but until you actually look inside them. But luckily today we have a unique find of one that you can see straight through the cave or burial site entrance. Okay, very interesting. So we got that one there at the top, just here, this one here, and down here I'll show you a couple of the things that I've found down here recently. This is the skeletal structure, strange skeleton. A lot of you may have seen this already. This has got a crazy detail in it, really sharp, interesting detail, and lots of interlocking strange parts to it. It may not be a skeleton, maybe something else, but to me these look like bones, but it could be something technical. It could be part of some sort of wreckage or something. There's also this very strange thing called Mr. Soft, with a very strange soft texture to it, unlike all the rocks around it, which all look much more textured than this. Really odd. This looks like it's had water erosion. So this looks like some part of a statue, and then we have this bit of architecture here, which seems to have broken off something with this inner circular part here. Okay. There's also this, another extremely eroded statue. Very strange pointy features. And lots of other weird things. This one's got a kind of little pipe kind of thing sticking out of it. So there's obviously architecture here, and some of these objects are technical, but a lot of them are parts of this burial structure that have collapsed and broken down. Okay, so check that out. I'll put a link to it at the end. Thanks for watching, everybody. I will be doing some more moon videos coming up in the next day or two. I found some more crazy stuff in some moon images taken back in the 1970s, early 70s and late 60s. So I'll be doing a bit more on the moon, but I will be doing more stuff coming up soon. So keep an eye open for that. My channel is being restricted quite heavily at the moment by somewhere between 80 and around 80%, perhaps 85, 90%. So please share. If you don't share these videos, this channel will not survive. Okay. So thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.